Hello everyone, in this video we'll learn how to apply loops on strings. So here I have stored a string value Python in variable s, and this is how it is organized inside the memory. So the variable p has the index 0, the value y has the index 1, and it goes on till this character n. And you know that it also has these negative indexing system. Now what we are going to do here is we are going to use a loop in order to access values from this string one by one. Okay, so how do we do it? There are two ways of doing it. The first way is by using index, and second way is by getting values directly. Okay, so in this way we are going to use the index, that is these values, in the loop. Okay, and we will see what we are going to do with this thing later on. So this is the program, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply a for loop for I in range. Now you know that the range function generates a sequence of numbers, and those generated numbers will be given to this variable I one by one. So what should be my values here? So you have to refer to this explanation again. So this is my start value, okay, and this is where I have to stop. So it is 0 to 5, and we are going one by one here. So you can simply write 0 here as a start value. The stop value should be 6 because I have to stop at 5 and 5 should be included. And you can leave the step part as by default it is 1. So put a colon sign and then print. So you have to write s, and inside the square bracket here you have to write the index. So in which variable do I have the index? It is the variable I. So you can simply write I here. Okay, so this program is complete. So you can run this, and as you can see the output is coming. So how is this program working? The first value generated by this range function is 0. So the first value of I is 0. 0 is put here. So as 0 is printed. Okay. Then when you come back to the loop, the value of I is 1. Then 1 is placed here. So it is S1, which is the next character Y. So Y is printed. Then likewise all the characters are printed one by one. Okay. So this is how you use index values in order to access the characters from the string. Now we are going to see how can we do the same thing by not using index values. So the change I'm going to make here is I have to remove this range function from here first, and then I have to simply write s here. Okay, what this membership operator does here is it takes this object s as a reference for this variable I. Okay, in other words you can say the Python system will read each character or each value one by one from this variable s and will give it to I. So the first value that will be given from this variable s to the variable I is p. So the first value of I is p. So in order to print the character p, you don't have to write it like this. You can simply write I here, and p should be printed on screen. Similarly, when you go back and when you go inside the loop second time, the next value of s, which is y, is given to the variable I. So when you print I second time, y character will be printed on screen. So this is the pattern in which the program is running. So let me run it and see. Yes, so we get the same output, but remember, we are not using index anywhere in this code. Okay, so to understand this concept in other way, you can say that s here is working as a collection object. You remember I mentioned this collection object thing in one of my previous videos. So what is a collection object? A collection object is something which stores multiple values in it. So since string is a collection of characters, that way you can say it is a collection object. So there are so many collection objects in Python that you will come to know about in the upcoming lectures. For example, arrays or list or series or many other. So if you understand this technique here, you can write any collection object here, and it works the same way. That is, it takes out values one by one from that collection object, and it will give it to the loop controlling variable, whatever you are using in your program. Okay, so I hope this concept is clear to you. So let's try one program here. Let me store a string which is like this. Okay, and this program is going to display how many digits are there in this given string. Okay, so as you can see, there are 3 digits in this string, that is 1, 2 and 3. So the output should be 3 in this case. Okay, so let's start writing the code. Let me zoom in. Yes, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a variable with the name count, and I'm going to give it an initial value 0. Why? Because I'm going to scan this string character by character, and I will check each incoming character, okay, inside a loop, of course. And if that character is a digit by nature, then I will increase the value of this count by 1. So ultimately, when my loop is complete, I will have the count of all the digits in the string. So let's write the loop structure now. So for I in. Now, since you know that there are 2 ways of scanning the string here. One is index by index, or the second one is you can access direct values. So because I want to check values here, I do not need index, although you can use range function here to go index by index. That's not a problem, but for making it easier, I'm simply writing s here. This variable s is used as a reference for this variable I. So again, one by one, the value of this string is going to come in this variable I. So you can check that incoming value. So how do you check? You have to use if condition inside the loop. And what are you checking? Whether I is a digit. That's it. Okay, so I explained this isDigit function in one of my string videos. So by that you can simply assume, you can simply understand that this function checks whether this thing is a digit or not, and if yes, it gives the value true. So you can either write this string like this, or you can write it like this to make it more clear. Okay, so if I.isDigit is true, that means the incoming value of this variable I is indeed a digit. So what do you have to do here? You have to increase the value of count variable by 1. So this is the shorthand notation I'm using here. Okay, so when this loop is executing first time, the first value of I will be this character A. Okay, remember we have nothing to do with index of these characters here. So the first value in I is directly A. So here it is checked as whether A is a digit or not. So it is not a digit, so this condition is false. And since this condition is false, this line is not going to execute. So the count variable remains at 0. Similarly, for this second value S, for third value H, this is not going to make this condition true. So for the first 3 times, this statement is not executing, and that's what we want. As soon as this character comes in the variable I, that is in the 4th execution of the loop, okay, so this time this condition is true because 1 is a digit. Hence this statement is executed for the first time and it increases the value of count by 1. So count becomes 1 at this point of time. Then same is the case with this 2 and 3. So after it checks this value, at that point of time the value of count is 3, or it is incremented 3 times. Then for this character the condition is false because it is not a digit, and for the rest of the string also the condition is false. So the ultimate value in the variable count is what? 3. So outside the loop you can simply print the value of this variable count, or to format the output properly you can write it like total digits in string colon, and then you put a comma sign here, and then whatever is the value of count. So this is the program of checking or counting how many digits are there in the given string. So I hope the logic is clear to you. So let me run the code, and as you can see it says total digits in string 3. So the next program I want to explain here is to get the sum of digits of a given number. So for example, this is a number, an integer value, not a string value. Okay, so you are asked to perform or to find out the sum of all its digits. So it should be 3 plus 2 plus 1, that is 6. So how do you do it? The logic of making this program is that you have to take out each digit from this number, and you cannot do it directly by using any method, because this is one single value. This is not a string, or this is not a collection object. Okay, so you cannot apply slicing, you cannot use indexing here because that is simply not available. So what do we do then? We can convert this number into a string like this. How do we convert an integer into a string? So typecasting, I'm using str function here, and what am I converting? N. So it will convert the integer value n into a string, and it will give it to s. So now since we have this number in the form of a string here in s, you can apply slicing, you can apply a loop here to access the digits one by one, and you can do things like these. So let's use a loop, and before that let me declare a variable, say t is equal to 0. Okay, why have I declared this variable? Because this variable is going to store the result, the sum of all digits. So initially it is 0. Now we can start the loop as like this, for I in. So what do I write here after in to access the digits one by one? So again, you have both ways of doing it. Either you can use range function or you can do it directly. So in this example, I am going to use range function. Okay. So you have to generate this range so that it generates indices. So the first index or the start index should be 0 and the stop index should be length of s and then the colon sign. So why have I written length of s here? Because in practical situations you never know how many digits are going to be there in a number. For example, what if I am taking an input from user for entering this number? So in that case, you never know how many digits the user is actually entering. Okay, so that's why using this length function here as a stop value is always helpful. So it tells whatever is the length of the string, okay, put it here, and then this will stop at, you know, that length of s value -1, and that's exactly what you want here. If you had not written this length function in this particular example, I would have written the stop value as 4, in fact 3, because I have to generate 0, 1 and 2. So instead of writing 3, you can simply write length of s. So how many characters are there in s? 3. So what is placed here? 3. Okay, so it is the same thing, but it is more convenient. So I recommend you to use this length function with range function as much as you can in programs like these. And you can simply ignore the step parameter because I want it 1 only by default. Okay, so now we are inside the loop. So what is the first value of I here in this case? Since I am using range function, it is going to give 0 as the first value to I. So this value 0 must be used as an index. So what do you do with this index? This variable t adds the integer value which is stored at s of I. Okay, so I hope this statement is clear to you. Let me explain this to you first. S of I, when you write it like this, it accesses or it fetches the value from s from this index I. So since I is 0, it is placed here and it is S0. So what is stored at S0? The digit 1. And since this is stored in the form of a string inside this variable s, it must be converted into integer so that it can be added to a variable. Otherwise it will remain a string and it will simply give an error message. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you now. So when the loop comes back second time, the value of I is 2. I'm so sorry. When the loop comes back second time, the value of I is 1 and 1 is placed here. So this is S1, and what is stored at S1? 2, but in string format. So that 2 is converted into integer and added to the value of t. So all digits like this will be added to this variable t one by one. So this is how you get the sum of digits of a number. So let me print the output first. Sum of digits is comma and then t. So that's it. This is the code. I hope whatever I have written is clear to you, and we are ready to run the program now. So I have executed it now, and it says sum of digit is 6, which is absolutely correct. So whatever number you give, like 1 2 3 2 1, this is 12,321. So if your number is changed, I don't have to make any change in the rest of the code here. That is why using this length function is beneficial here. Okay, so you run the code again. This time you get 9, which is the sum of all these digits. Okay, so I hope how to apply loops on strings is clear to you. Okay, if you have any question, you can ask in the comment box below. If you have liked the content, please like, comment and share, and do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.